2026 Subaru Solterra first drive. This spring, we got our first look at the all-new 2026 Subaru Solterra EV and appreciated its more refined styling as well as its increased capability with a larger battery pack, more range, and a standard NACS charging port. This is our first chance to get behind the wheel of the new Solterra, so let's check it out. So my two main objectives with the new Solterra are to test its efficiency in semi-real world conditions. I don't know how many Solterra owners are really going to take it on the off-road course that we had access to, but it is capable enough to do that, and Solterra owners do like to go off-road. But we've done a mixture of city driving, highway driving, and in between. So we're going to keep track of how many miles we've driven, how many miles we've knocked off the range estimate to see how much those align at the end of our drive. My other focus is to see if the Solterra actually feels competitive to two of the more popular small EV SUVs currently on the market, the Ford Mustang Mach-E and the Volkswagen ID.4, both of which vastly outsell the Solterra, and even outsell the Solterra when you combine it with its Toyota BZ sibling. So is the Solterra finally competitive with those two? We're going to find out. Some of the changes to the Solterra are purely aesthetic. They include, I think, more refined styling. On certain paint colors, you get body color panels on the exterior, which I think just makes it look more adult. Depends what exterior paint color, but essentially white, gray, and black get body color panels. Other paint colors, there are two shades of blue and a red. Those still get black panels, but instead of unpainted black plastic, they're now gloss black panels. So while it's still two-tone, it does look a little bit more upscale. You can also get a two-tone roof on the highest trim, the Touring XT. Other updates, while they do change the aesthetics, do have more of a functional purpose. The revised front styling, revised side mirrors, revised rear spoilers all help with aerodynamics and make the Solterra more efficient than its predecessor. The biggest change inside the new Solterra is Subaru's biggest ever touchscreen display. It's a 14-inch display. Very familiar if you've been in any recent Toyota products, because it is basically the Toyota touchscreen that automaker has moved to in most of its models. Pretty responsive, works pretty well. Could use a home button still. That's one of our complaints since it appeared in Toyotas. Still a problem here. I would also prefer physical climate controls for every aspect of the climate control instead of screen-based controls at the bottom of the touchscreen. But for what it is, it works pretty well, and it's honestly much improved over Subaru's previous portrait-oriented screen. The other major revision to the Solterra's interior is a new center console design, which now includes dual wireless phone chargers, so you and your front passenger don't have to fight over who gets to use the wireless charger while you're driving. The downside to that I've been noticing on this drive is that the console is wide and my knee keeps hitting the side of it. And I'm starting to just feel a little uncomfortable the more I drive. So that's definitely something you should check out as well if you're considering the new Solterra. I could see it getting annoying, especially on significantly longer drives than this. We've probably only done 100 or so miles right now, and I'm pretty annoyed by it. One thing that isn't changed about the Solterra's interior, and it's something that's pretty polarizing, is the high-mounted instrument panel. I haven't had too many problems with it so far. The steering wheel is sort of a squircle shape to try to help with visibility, but from where I'm sitting, occasionally as I'm going around turns, it will block the instrument panel. Much more significant to the Solterra's upgrades for 2026 are its powertrain upgrades. It starts with a slightly larger battery pack, and the new motors on the new Solterra are lighter, more powerful, and more efficient. And so you end up with significantly more range depending on which Solterra you opt for. The previous Solterra maxed out at 215 horsepower and 222 miles of range. That's not really competitive in today's market, but with this updated powertrain, all these efficiency updates, everything that Subaru has put into the new Solterra, you start with 233 horsepower and an EPA estimated 288 miles of range. And in the new XT version, which is what we're driving, this is a Touring XT, you get 338 horsepower and, impressively, not that much less range, just 10 miles less at 278 miles. So great improvements to efficiency and power delivery really help the Solterra feel more competitive. Subaru says the new XT can go from 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds, which is under 5 seconds as they promised when the new Solterra was announced, and pretty much makes this the quickest Subaru you can buy, which I'm sure will disappoint a lot of WRX fans, but it is what it is. With all of these changes, which include updated suspension, new steering rack, retuned all-wheel drive system, Subaru's promising a better drive experience, a more refined drive experience, and with additional noise-canceling materials, a quieter drive experience. And it feels like they're delivering on all of that. This feels like a very competent EV. Let's not kid ourselves. For a while, the Solterra was just sort of an afterthought. It existed for Subaru mostly to say, yeah, we have an EV. This feels like something competitive. It feels like it's competitive with the Mustang Mach-E and the Volkswagen ID.4. It doesn't quite have the horsepower of the extended range premium Mustang Mach-E. It has a little bit more than the ID.4 Pro. The steering feels fairly direct. It's also a bit on the numb side, which I tend to find most EVs to be, but the refined steering rack does its job and gives me enough communication to feel confident in Colorado's twisty mountains. Acceleration is now decently quick. 4.9 seconds 0 to 60 is not performance EV quick, but it is more than quick enough for day-to-day driving. I've been enjoying it so far. You also have decent passing power and merging power on the highways. It doesn't fall on its face if you're already at highway speeds. There's a little bit in reserve, like here, for example. And we're not even in the sportiest power mode. That was just a normal mode. So you still have a little bit in reserve when you need it, which is a really nice thing to have. Braking is also pretty impressive. The Solterra still doesn't have one-pedal driving, which is a feature in EVs I really like, but you do get 5 stages of regenerative braking, from completely off to 4 levels of on. An annoying thing we noted in the previous Solterra that still happens here is that when you turn the car off, no matter what your previous regen setting was, you still come back in the weakest regenerative braking setting. So if you do want more regenerative braking, you are going to have to adjust that using these steering wheel mounted paddles literally every time you start the car up. Another positive about the regen braking is that as you get down to a stop, the brake pedal is not so sensitive that when you actually come to a full stop, you don't lurch forward suddenly. It's very nice, linear, and gradual. It's a thing I really appreciate. Stats matter for EVs, though it's never a guarantee that an EV will always deliver on its promises. But when the previous Solterra had under 230 miles of range in every configuration, and a maximum power output of 215 horsepower, and a DC fast charging rate of up to 100 kilowatts, it never even offered on-paper competitiveness. The 2026 Solterra improves on every single one of the 2025 stats, with an estimated 288 or 278 miles of range, 233 or 338 horsepower, and a 150 kilowatt DC fast charging rate. Those numbers don't blow away the Ford or Volkswagen, if they even exceed them at all, but they're at least competitive. As for how efficient my drive was in the Solterra Touring XT, when I got in, the battery showed 100% and actually 280 miles of estimated range, a little bit more than the 278 I was expecting. And after 121.3 miles of, well, extremely mixed-use driving, heavy climate control use, various driving modes, even an off-road course, I'd used 42% of the battery's charge, and the range estimate showed 149 miles, meaning I'd used 131 miles of the estimated range. That makes the Solterra so far fairly accurate, but not perfect. I also had a chance to drive the new Solterra on an off-road course. Subaru is quick to point out the 2026 Solterra has 8.3 inches of ground clearance,
and with its standard symmetrical all-wheel drive, dual mode X mode with grip control, it's more than capable of tackling the average person's off-roading needs. And then some. The course we drove was narrow, but not especially challenging based on my experience, but the Solterra had no issues with it. It's not a dedicated off-road rig, but it is a Subaru.
The new Solterra is vastly improved and now feels a lot more competitive with things like the Ford Mustang Mach-E and Volkswagen ID4. Hopefully we can get one into our Chicago offices soon to better test range, charging ability, and to see what it's like to really live with it for an extended period of time. For my full review of the 2026 Subaru Solterra EV, head to Cars.com/news.